So let's talk about the Glock 20 Generation 5 10mm. So before we get started, as you can see here, there's nothing down the chamber there. No magazine in it. We're clear, safe. Let's get started. So when I went out and I looked for a 10mm, I immediately looked to Glock because I have Glocks, I have them modified, I carry them all the time. That's the handgun that works for me and I've trained with, so why would I go anywhere else? Obviously, there's other 10mm out there. You have the Springfield XD, Smith & Wesson M&P. There's other ones out there that are great. And quite frankly, they're all around the same price. And the thing you have to take into consideration is what works best for you. So if you've never had, a pistol before, I would recommend you go to a gun shop, rent some, shoot some, see what feels best to you as far as ergonomics go. But for me, Glock works, so that's what I'm going with. As far as this one goes, this Generation 5, the main difference, it doesn't have finger grooves. As you see, modification-wise, I take finger grooves off. This one already comes with no finger grooves, which is awesome. So that's a big, huge step up. You get this adjustable, dovetail in the back. And I did add sights. So I added some Heine straight 8 sights, as you can see there. So that's what the only change I'm going to make. I am going to get a plug for the back here because of getting debris in here. The problem is they don't make it yet. I haven't been able to find it, so once I do, I'll change that. But besides that, this is the only thing, the sights and the plug back here, so you don't get debris in here over the course of time. There's the only 2 things you really got to do. People talk about the triggers, they talk about all kinds of stuff. You do not need to do anything to a Glock, with the exception of those 2 things, in my opinion. There's really no need, especially with these Generation 5s with the no finger grooves. This thing picks up and shoots great. I think the trigger is fine. A lot of people talk about the triggers like, oh my god, it's so heavy, blah blah blah. They're perfectly fine. Don't let people run you into spending money. So as far as cost goes, this costs pretty much the same thing as most other reputable 10mm out there. I actually got this for $570 on Gunbroker, and that was, I don't know, a month ago, or maybe a little over a month ago. And right now their MSRP is like $625, I think, somewhere around there. And the MSRP of the XD, M&P, they're all around that 600-ish, $650-ish mark. So I got this for $570. I thought that was reasonable. The Gen 4s were around, I think, $520, so I didn't really mind spending the extra $50 or so. I'm bumping the camera like a professional. If you've been watching me for the last 13 years, you know I bump the camera like a professional. The one other thing with this is it has a flared mag well. So there is a little bit of a flare to the bottom here compared to other ones. As you can see here, it's just slightly flared. You zoom in, see it's kind of slightly flared on the edges here. So that's helpful in magazine changes. Those are like the 2 main things. No finger grooves. There is a chamfer on the front here, unlike on the Generation 5, which is just a 90-degree angle for the most part. There's a little chamfer. Besides that, that's pretty much the only stuff. You get the RMR optic mount on the top with the Gen 5. Been out and shooting this, really like it a lot. So I have 2 magazines full of Underwood. This is their 10mm, obviously. 10mm, 220 grain, hard cast, black cherry. Put a bunch of that through just to test it. Yes, it's expensive, but you have to test your defense ammo. I'm not using this in a concealed carry, so I use this in the wilderness. I always label my magazines that have wilderness ammo wild. So I got 2 of those ready to roll. Got a Surefire on here because that's how everything's set up with my chest rig. Link to that video where I talk about chest rig carry. Actually got 2 of those videos. I'll link those down below, but every gun I have has a Surefire X300 so that I can use an X300 holster. So, want to make sure that I can use that with my wilderness carry, and I don't have to constantly swap out holsters. If I'm feeling like a 9mm is going to work, that's fine. When we go to Alaska, boom, I can grab this 10mm, same holster, same setup, just a different gun. So that's how I like to roll. In terms of how it shoots, went to the range, I shot a couple boxes of the 180 grain Soleil and Belay, as I call it. It's good ammo, but shot a bunch of that. Again, shot a bunch of this. Obviously, yeah, a 10mm has a kick. If I compare it to a 45, it obviously has a little more kick than a 45, but it's definitely manageable compared to like a 357 Magnum, like I have with just regular 180 grain 357 soft point, like Federal. This kicks way less than a 357 Magnum. Super controllable because unlike a revolver, you got a high grip, on a semi. So super controllable. And I like it a lot. I think this is like the perfect bear gun that you can get, obviously with the right ammunition, like, Underwood, like you see here. Underwood, 10mm, this is 220 grain. They also make 200 grain. I think they're pretty interchangeable. I mean, there's only about an 8 foot per second difference in energy, so I don't think it's really a huge difference. If they don't have the 220, get 200, but ran a whole bunch of that through this. When I say a whole bunch, I mean 2 boxes. So I spent $60 just to shoot, in a minute, blazing through it just to make sure it works, because that's what you have to do with your defense ammo. And then I, blazed through a bunch of other ammo, super accurate. I've shot thousands of rounds through Glocks over the years, as you've seen in many different videos. Shoots no different, shoots exactly the same as every other Glock. Super accurate, as long as you know what you're doing. So I think this is a great 10mm. I think if you're gonna pick one up, this is the one. I wouldn't go towards the Gen 4. Those finger grooves are not made for everyone. You're gonna have to, get it altered so that the finger grooves are off of it. The finger grooves just completely, they only line up with like 5% of people. So you're gonna have to adjust them if you get them. So I wouldn't go for the Gen 4. Just go grab this nice Gen 5 right here. And I think you'd be good in business. 10mm. What's not to like about this? So if you guys have any questions or anything, let me know. If you have a Gen 5 Glock 20, go ahead and put in the comments down below what you think of it, especially compared to like, Gen 4, Gen 3, XD, M&P. Until next time, later.